Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason and I'm here to go over the retrospective for UFC 240 where Frankie Edgar was not the answer to Max Holloway. Max Holloway retained his featherweight championship and picked up another W to continue his win streak at 145 pounds. We had a very good evening going 7-4. Let's get into it though. Here's the show. All right, to kick things off, we did pick up a W with Max Holloway defeating Frankie Edgar. This was a very good fight by Max Holloway. It pretty much ran exactly as I thought it was. Max Holloway had superior boxing the entire time, superior footwork, movement, you name it. He was in and out of the pocket, and Frankie Edgar really had nothing really to offer. He did get 96 strikes into Max Holloway's 129, but none of them I thought were any real significance. He did pick up one takedown, was not able to do anything with it, but attempted many takedowns. I mean, Edgar was trying at least one per round, sometimes a couple, and he just was not able to bring Max to the mat where maybe he would have had a chance. And I think that's the story of this one. Without Frankie getting takedowns, he's not able to defeat Max, and that's how I said it, and that's how it played out. So Max picks up a very good W here, and one thing I kind of want to point out is that one thing I thought was really interesting when Max Holloway is boxing is he used a nice, low crouch style, and Edgar being so much shorter than him, 5'6" to 5'11", when Holloway would dip out of the pocket and lift his head, a lot of times Frankie was catching him in the shoulders, almost like Holloway was kind of shoulder rolling out a lot of his shots just because his target just kept moving, several inches higher, and I thought that was just a very good game plan. I don't know if that was intentional going against a shorter fighter, but I thought Frankie had a hard time with accuracy, especially early on, clipping him in the shoulders, like I said. And so, hey, hats off to Max. Unfortunately, this is probably the last title run we'll see for Frankie Edgar, though. He's lost 4 straight title attempts, so I don't think he'll be back to see a fifth. It is what it is, but we picked up a W. All right, and the next one, my crazy pills did not work because Chris Cyborg defeated Felicia Spencer pretty handily, at least going into the second round. So when this fight started out, I actually thought that Spencer looked very good. She cut Cyborg early, great elbow strike, and Cyborg threw the kitchen sink at her and looked a little bit gassed into the end of the first round. Spencer looked like, okay, she's hanging. She maybe got the better of Chris in a couple of exchanges, but that second round, Felicia Spencer goes for the heavy pressure on the cage, trying to score a takedown, and I think burned her gas tank out a little bit, where Cyborg ends up getting her own takedown in the transition. He drops some ground and pound on her, and then the third round just kind of unloads the rest of it, and that's kind of all she wrote. I thought Felicia Spencer got a takedown. She could have maybe picked up a W here somehow, but that's not how it played out, and so Cyborg picks up the win. So we pick up an L, Cyborg gets a W, but hey, I mean, Spencer was such a big, heavy underdog that I think that's the way most of the world saw it playing out. All right, next fight, one we did get correct. Jeff Neal defeats Nico Price. This was a great fight. This was kind of a wild man in Price going up against a very skilled tactician in Jeff Neal. So I thought Jeff Neal was the better fighter in this one. Nico Price had some wild exchanges where I thought he hurt Neal a little bit, but Neal had the takedowns on the night. He had the spirit of boxing. He ultimately was able to drop some nice ground and pound and eventually pick up the KO in the second round. So we were able to predict it, and hats off to Neal. He put on a spectacular performance against a fighter I really like in Nico Price, but Nico was not able to pull it off with his wild man ways. In our next matchup, another one we got right, Arman Tsarukyan defeats Olivier Aubin-Mercier in a very good contest. This was just a super grappling heavy exchange. Arman looked superior in every grappling aspect. He nailed 2 takedowns. He basically was just holding his legs the entire time. I thought Arman basically dominated this fight from start to finish by controlling that wrestling game. Olivier, very good grappler. He had amazing defense, but he was not able to get it done. Once Arman was able to drop a little bit of ground and pound on him late in the third round, this thing was pretty much cemented for Arman, and it was a good win for him. Like I said, this is a guy that took Islam Makhachev pretty deep in the lightweight division in his debut, and I expect more good things to see out of him in the future. So it was a good pick by us, and he had an amazing performance. All right, so due to circumstance, I wasn't able to see most of these fights here, but I'll go over the ones that I have kind of transitioned over to, watch the fight, and in transit, I missed a couple. The Krzysztof Jotko fight, Marc-Andre Barrier. I did not see it. It looks like it was very close. It was a split decision win for Jotko, but we did pick up a W here. Araujo and Davis. This one I actually did catch. I was in transit for the last one, and the Araujo looked really good. She actually was outstruck by Davis by one punch, but the damage that Araujo did, I mean, she broke Alexis Davis's nose. She just was in and out of the pocket, bouncing around, especially early in the fight. She does have a little bit of a worrisome gas tank, I think, if she goes on to fight these other flyweights. I mean, by 2 to 3 minutes in, you could see she was already starting to fade. You're a professional athlete. You got to go at least 2 full rounds before you have a little bit of fading. So I'd like to see a little bit more conditioning out of Araujo, but she looked amazing that night. Very good boxing, did a lot of damage, scored some takedowns. And Davis, even though she did get equal strikes, and I don't think ever really landed any great clean shots. Then we move on to Min Hakeem Dawodu and Yoshinori Ori. This fight scared me a bit because Dawodu got knocked down twice. Ori looked really good early on, but Dawodu got the timing, got his footwork in. He ends up nailing a great combination that finishes up with a nice KO kick to close things out in the third round. I think he would have eventually won by decision anyways, but he doesn't let it go to the judge's scorecard, and he's able to close this one out. So Min Hakeem picks up a great win, and that's another one we were able to call correctly. All right, we got to move into a couple of L's here. We had 3 in a row here. I was a little scared at the time. Gavin Tucker defeats Sangwon Woo Choi. Gets a rear naked choke in the third round. It looks like Gavin would have ended up winning that one anyways. He was out pointing him 5 takedowns to 2, about 10 more strikes. He just looked like the better fighter overall. Another one that was really close, Devinson Figueiredo and Pantoja. Figueiredo did more damage. I really liked Pantoja. This was fight of the night. He just did not get it done. I thought that he was going to defeat Figueiredo. It just didn't play out that way. Hats off to him, and I'm sure Pantoja will get back to his winning ways. He just had to drop one that last night, and that was a tough one for me. That was probably the toughest one because I really liked Pantoja. He was probably one of my favorite picks, and things just did not work out. Then we had Jillian Robertson defeating Sarah Froda. I was surprised by this one. It was pretty handy. Froda just couldn't find rhythm. Maybe she was injured. I don't know. She only threw 9 strikes. She is very tough. She does throw a lot of strikes out there, typically in her matchups. She only got 9 off, no takedowns. Robertson just dominated this fight, ends up picking up the KO in the second. And then in our final contest, Eric Koch picks up a W for us. Over Kyle Stewart. This is a fight I wasn't able to see, but he did outstrike him, nailed 4 takedowns to Stewart's 0, and so I can see why he definitely picked up the unanimous decision. So kind of a quick one here tonight. We went 7-4 overall, which I'm pretty happy with. This was all using a new metric. Hopefully we'll see how things go next week, see if we can continue these winning ways. I'm happy to be back in a pretty good spot. Unfortunately for me, though, just on a personal side, the bets just didn't work out so good. So even though I had a pretty good performance just with the favorites versus the underdogs, things just didn't go as well for me. But hey, if you took, some of these fighters and maybe parlayed or something, you probably did okay yourself. So hey, I hope you did good. We did 7-4. So majority of these picks were going to pay out nicely for you. All right, so I would typically go into the mailbag segment, which I do have an email, but I'm actually going to hold off till we get to our Fight Picks podcast. Unfortunately, this one just has to be a little bit expedited just because of the timing of my day, and I'll have to get back to the mailbag on the next one. I think it deserves, kind of a full podcast. So it's a very good question, too. I am looking forward to answering it. David, who wrote in. But if you want to get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast, you can get in touch with us at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at MMAFightPick01. We also have a YouTube page. If you're listening to us there, please like and subscribe. Also, there is a Patreon as well. So if you'd like to have your name read on the show, you want to be part of the liquor reviews, the beer reviews, or you want some additional fight picks like some of my parlays, which did work out this weekend. Just want to throw it out there if you are interested in the fight picks. Those can all be found on Patreon, where you can get additional, interaction, additional information from me regarding the show. So I think it's really good value. I'm not going to go into it here, but check it out. It's in the description below if you're still listening. All right, though. I will be back with another set of fight picks on Tuesday. I apologize, this one's getting out a little bit late. We'll be coming back for a fight night where Covington's taking on Lawler. It's going to be a hell of a matchup. I don't know if the rest of the card lives up to the main event, but we're still going to be crunching all of them as best as we can. And so until I speak with you again, happy fight picking.